I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Steve Weisz. He is CEO of Marriott Vacations Worldwide Corporation. Hi, Steve. It's great to have you on.
Hi, Judy. It's nice to be here as well. Thank you for having me.
Great. Pleasure to have you. Now, a quick note to our viewers. This interview is for informational purposes only. The NYSE doesn't recommend any investments or investment strategies. Okay, so Steve, tell me, how are you different from traditional lodging, and has COVID impacted your occupancy the same way?
Well, we are somewhat similar in the fact that we provide accommodations for people and everything else, but the one basic difference between ourselves and the traditional lodging business is we are totally a leisure-based business. People are on vacation, they're enjoying their time there, et cetera. Now, when the virus hit about this time last year, people got very concerned about traveling, and there were numerous governmental restrictions and everything else that were put in place that caused people to delay or reschedule their vacations accordingly. So we were impacted. Most of our resorts, except for those where we were required to close, most of our resorts actually stayed open, although occupancies were significantly lower. But once things got better, and let's call that late May, early June, people really started to get back and travel much more robustly, at least for us, than they did maybe in the lodging business.
All right, so your stock has rebounded nicely over the past 10 to 11 months. What would you attribute that to?
Well, let's go back. When the virus first hit last spring, all the travel industry stocks got hit pretty hard. And I think that was all logical. Nobody knew how broad, how deep, how long the effects of the COVID was going to be on industry and travel. And so, our 52-week low was just a little over $30. It was largely a function of not having good visibility on what the earnings were going to be, and obviously the multiples re-rated at the time. As things have gotten sequentially better, I think people have started to look at the stocks again. They've looked at how our improvement has happened over the last several quarters, and they're now projecting about what the future looks like in terms of more normalcy, getting back to kind of the pre-COVID levels of 2019. As a result, our multiples have gone back up, and we're very pleased with the performance of the stock thus far.
Now, Steve, do you see your owners returning to vacation as you had hoped, and are they at ease with your cleaning procedures?
Yeah, the one thing about people that own in the timeshare business, which is what we are, is that people own their vacations. They've bought them in advance, and they like to use them, and they're very, very avid travelers. And one of the things that we enjoy is seeing them back at our resorts on a time and time again basis. And we watch their families grow up. They bring their young kids, and they get older, and all the other things that go along with that. So as soon as things got more comfortable for folks to travel, they started to come back in significant numbers. We, at the time, we were actually surveying people before and after their stays to ask about their level of understanding and comfort about our cleanliness standards, et cetera. I'm happy to report that the marks that we got kind of before they traveled were high, but they're even higher after their vacations. So they felt as though we did a very good job. I'm very proud of our team at the resorts that work day in, day out to make sure that we provide the highest level of cleanliness and social distancing and everything else that we can deliver to our guests to make them feel comfortable and safe.
Now, are there significant differences between your U.S.-based properties and your international properties?
Yes, with few exceptions, most of the resorts in North America are open without any meaningful restrictions. There's still a few pockets, but by and large, people are able to travel to them. That is not the case in Europe. There are still numerous restrictions about travel between countries within Europe. And in Asia Pacific, where we also have properties, Most of the travel there is within country. So people are not traveling internationally from one country to another in Asia Pacific as a result. So that's one of the fundamental differences.
Now, it's been a very tough global business environment, but you recently announced that you were acquiring Welk Resorts. Now, was that something that had been underway for a long time, or was it an opportunity that you just couldn't pass up?
Well, we have said all along that as we think about uses of our cash and everything else, that the first and foremost what we would be doing is focusing on finding ways to grow the business in an accretive way for our shareholders. Welk Resorts was always a very well-regarded independent timeshare operator. High quality and the like. We've always held them in high regard. Last summer, their team decided that they wanted to seek alternatives in terms of whether they wanted to stay a private company or be acquired. And so they hired an investment banker. And when we got the notification that they were looking for potential acquisition parties, we raised our hand, and we were very fortunate to be able to prevail in the discussion to acquire them. We're very happy about our forthcoming closing, which we expect to be on or about April 1st.
Okay, so Steve, how do you see this year shaping up?
I think, and I don't think I'm very much different from others in the travel space. I think we see this year as being one of sequential improvement. As you think about the further rollout of vaccines, people's level of comfort about being able to travel, we see that each sequential quarter should be better than the previous one. And we look forward to trying to turn that corner so that we can see all of COVID in the rearview mirror sooner rather than later.
Okay, and finally, Steve, I wanted to ask you, earlier this week, there was the unfortunate news of Arne Sorenson's passing, the CEO of Marriott International. I know that you had a very long-standing relationship with him. How will you remember him?
Well, first of all, Arne was a good friend. He was a person that was very supportive of our business. He was a person that he had extraordinary business acumen, but most importantly, he had grace. He had the ability to relate to people at all levels of the organization, which was I consider to be somewhat unique. He was the first person without the last name Marriott to be CEO of Marriott. And Bill Marriott did a great job of selecting someone who could carry on the same kind of ideas and ideals that he and his dad put in place. And he will be sorely missed. All of us were very, very much surprised to hear that turn of events, because quite frankly, as he was going through his previous treatments for pancreatic cancer, the word was that things were getting better. And all of a sudden, over the holidays, it took a turn for the worse. And we'll miss him.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that reflection. And thank you so much for joining me on NYSE Floor Talk.
Thank you, Judy. I appreciate the opportunity. Y'all take care.